In the 5th year of our engagement, he still refused to marry me. He claimed a man's heart should be devoted to the world, not entangled in romantic entanglements. Until I overheard his friend ask him in the dining hall, "Miss Sue has waited for you until she's grown old. Yoon Jun, are you truly unwilling to marry her?" He gave a cold, faint smile. Doesn't she know? If I truly intended to marry her, why would I have waited this long to speak? It's merely greed for glory. I'm unwilling to relinquish this marriage. Everyone snickered dismissively. Brother Pei is in the prime of his life, rising swiftly through the ranks. No wonder she won't let go. They didn't know that in half a month, I would depart for the frontier to marry another. On the day of my departure, I instructed my elder brother not to forget to demand back from Pei Yunjun the garments and boots I had personally made for him over the years, and to burn them. I also returned the token of our betrothal. Thus, the brocade waters flowed on, and I bid you farewell forever. I stood outside the door, the betrothal letter hanging limply in my hand behind me. Laughter filled the side room, until his friend chuckled and reminded him, "Brother Pei, Miss Sue is here. She must be looking for you. Why not go see her?" Others teased, "Brother Pei, I bet he's trying to avoid her right now." Pei Yunjuan's expression was grim. Yet, upon seeing me standing at the doorway, he rose and approached. His brow furrowed deeply. "Why have you come again? Did you not visit me yesterday? Did I not tell you I will marry you eventually? Why this relentless pressure? As a woman, do you not feel ashamed?" It was precisely noon, and the main hall below the restaurant was crowded. Hearing his words, people turned to whisper about me. After a long while, his friends stepped in to smooth things over. "Brother Pei, enough. Miss Sue has waited far too long for you. Now a woman past her prime at 20. It's only natural she's anxious." He scoffed dismissively. "If she feels she can't wait any longer, then let's call off the engagement." As he spoke, a flicker of regret crossed his eyes. I lowered my gaze, staring at the betrothal letter in my hand, and nodded. "Very well. Then let's call off the engagement." The dining hall fell silent, an eerie stillness settling over it. I lifted my head, meeting Pei Yunjuan's gaze directly. "This is the betrothal document you left me 5 years ago, before your exile to Lingnan. I remember its contents clearly. I wish to take you as my wife, to have you manage the household and bear me children." That day, the Pei family had fallen into disgrace. All the men of the household were to be exiled to harsh, frigid lands. As the eldest grandson of the main branch, Pei Yunjun could not escape this fate. On the day he left the capital, Pei Yunjun held me tightly in his arms and said, "Alwan, wait for me." With those words, I waited for him in the capital for 5 years. Now, only the ailing Lady Pei and his 7-year-old sister remained of the Pei family. Grandmother and granddaughter huddled in a dilapidated shanty town on the capital's outskirts. The place was home to displaced people. Even though Pei Yunjuan's sister was still young, her striking beauty drew the attention of a peculiar old bachelor. After inquiring about them, I immediately brought both to my unassuming little house. When Lady Pei's illness grew severe, it was I who rushed through the night to seek a doctor. Her health was fragile. For 5 years, I secretly visited every 3 days and arranged for others to care for them. Back then, I was at the height of prosperity. My father rose steadily through the ranks, and my elder brother earned imperial favor for his service, becoming a commander of the palace guards. Matchmakers nearly wore out my doorstep, holding letters Pei Yunjun had sent from Lingnan through intermediaries. I declined each suitor. I waited only for his return to the capital to marry me. Later, the new emperor ascended the throne and cleared the Pei family's name. The first thing Pei Yunjun did upon returning to the capital was ask me to wait. He said that although he was back in the capital now, he was still a commoner. A man with ambitions for the world could not be consumed by romantic entanglements. So I continued to wait. Later, Pae-Yun passed the imperial examinations with flying colors. With the new emperor ascending the throne, it was a time when capable men were needed. His future was undoubtedly bright. Many officials came to inquire if Pae-Yun was engaged. My parents asked me to sound him out. After all, I was now 20 years old. Even my youngest sister had reached marriageable age. With proper seniority, if I hadn't married, it would be difficult for them to seek matches. So yesterday, I sought out Pae-Yun. I asked him when he would finally be willing to marry me. He was in his study, half embracing his cousin seated in the armchair as they reviewed the ledgers. Upon hearing my words, he merely replied with impatience. "You've waited all these years for me. I will marry you eventually. Why the rush?" His cousin covered her mouth and giggled softly. After Pae-Yun left, his cousin repeatedly taunted me, saying I was no longer worthy of him. Then she tried to push me into the pond. Quick as lightning, I grabbed her sleeve. Both of us plunged into the icy water. When Pae-Yun returned and saw us, he leapt in. Unskilled in swimming, I tried to grab his sleeve, but he violently shook me off. Before losing consciousness, I saw him embrace his delicate cousin and climb ashore without a backward glance. Fortunately, the featherlight robe mother had newly made for me kept me partially afloat. Only when my maid came searching for me was I finally pulled to safety. Drenched and disheveled, I dragged myself to Pae-Yun's study. He sat on the bedside, his gaze fixed on me as though I were a venomous, greedy woman. His eyes brimmed with disgust. "You pushed Jiao into the water." This was not a question. His gaze was icy cold, yet his hand clasped Xinjiao's slender wrist. Suddenly, I felt no need to explain. But what I hadn't done, no one could pin on me. No. The study door stood open. Xinjiao lay wrapped in Pae-Yun's usual afternoon nap quilt. A gust of wind swept in, making my lips turn even paler. My whole body felt icy cold. Pae-Yun seemed oblivious. "Su Wan, apologize to Jiao." I looked at Xinjiao's smug face and shook my head. Pae-Yun smiled. "Since you refuse to apologize, don't expect to go back. When would I be allowed to return?" "Only after apologizing to Jiao." I pressed my lips together, standing stubbornly in place. My heart was filled with grievance. 5 years. I waited 5 years for Pae-Yun. The prime of a woman's life was spent here. We grew up together. Yet he refused to believe me, choosing instead to trust Xinjiao. He wouldn't listen to a single word of my explanation. My heart ached. Not from Pae-Yun's betrayal, but from having misjudged him myself. It's always hard to admit you loved the wrong person, that you saw them wrong. As tears fell, I saw Pae-Yun's fingertips twitch slightly. He glanced at me, then lowered his head again. Just then, Xinjiao murmured she felt cold. Pae-Yun rose and ordered someone to fetch his fox fur cloak to cover Xinjiao. I wiped my tears and avoided looking at Pae-Yun. He seemed to want to speak but held back, merely frowning slightly at my demeanor. Only hours later, when my face turned crimson, did Pae-Yun notice something was amiss. Ignoring Xinjiao's protests, he personally escorted me back to my residence. My fever raged fiercely. I couldn't pinpoint where the pain came from, only that it was excruciating. Clutching the quilt, I wept uncontrollably. Pae-Yun watched me for a long time before finally sighing. "Very well. This time, I'll let it pass. I'll apologize to Jiao on your behalf. This shall not happen again. Awan. I will marry you someday." With that, he wiped the scalding tears from my eyes and left. I burned all night. Yet my mind grew clear. I realized I no longer wanted Pei-Yun-jun. Early this morning, a letter arrived. It was from Qin Xiao. He lived next door to my family as a child, always dragging me up and down walls. Though beaten by our parents, he always shielded me. Later, Qin Xiao's father returned. To prevent the princes from using family ties as leverage, he took the entire Qin clan to the frontier. They never returned to the capital. Qin Xiao once flushed crimson and asked me to be his wife. I looked at the sugar cake in his hand and agreed. As the years passed, I forgot. I met Pei-Yun-jun across the courtyard, finding him like a celestial attendant to a fairy. I clung to him daily. Unlike Qin Xiao, Pei-Yun-jun knew nothing of swords or spears. In the academy, he could rise and recite entire texts with ease. He was often praised by the master. Now, Qin Xiao asks me, "You ate my sugar cake, so you must be my wife." Ah, Wan, don't go back on your word. In his letter, he described everything about the frontier. The people there were better than those in the capital. He said they would listen to me in everything. He also mentioned that his household had recently hired a cook skilled in making sugar cakes, and they were absolutely delicious. The letter contained numerous silver notes and land deeds, likely amounting to half of the Qin family's fortune. I was both amused and exasperated. Glancing at my sisters in the courtyard, I penned my reply. Very well. Then I recalled how my second sister and the son of the Minister of Rights across the street had been exchanging glances for 3 years. I added, in half a month, the auspicious day will arrive. I shall set off for the frontier. Pei-Yun-jun froze before me. He did not reach out to take the betrothal letter he had once given me. I simply shoved it into his hand. He let the betrothal letter fall to the ground, frowning in confusion. Are you still sulking at me over pushing Jiao Jiao into the water yesterday? I didn't save you because Jiao Jiao is frail and couldn't endure the cold. I was panicked in the moment. Besides, you always have maidservants with you, someone would have brought you ashore. Breaking off an engagement isn't child's play. Think carefully. You're already 20 years old. You can't compete with younger women. Who in the capital would want you besides me? I said nothing. I grabbed a maid's sleeve, turned, and waved my hand. I didn't want him to say any more. Anyway, I wasn't marrying him. After returning home, father and mother were overjoyed. They chattered on about Qin Zhao's virtues. They praised the Qin family's upright traditions. But when they spoke of Pei-Yun-jun, their anger flared. That boy hasn't married Awan in 5 years, what does he think he's doing? We know full well. We just couldn't bear to see Awan hurt. Thankfully, she's finally let it go. If he doesn't want to marry her, plenty of others will. My 2 younger sisters looked at me with concern. Second sister even pulled me aside to a corner and whispered, "Sister, even if you want to break off the engagement with the Pei family, why agree so quickly to marry into the Qin family? You haven't seen him in all these years. What if he's now short and stocky? Or has a harem of wives and concubines?" I thought back to the memory of that young boy in his blue brocade robe, with rosy lips and pearly teeth. My heart sank a little. Could he have grown up to be, well, not exactly handsome? My second sister's eyes welled up. Is it because of me that you? I shook my head. Don't be silly. I genuinely like Qin Xiao. As I finished speaking, a soft cough sounded behind me. It was one of Qin Zhao's subordinates delivering another gift. I felt an inexplicable flush. After all, having someone's subordinate overhear you confess your feelings to them was rather embarrassing. Lu Yu had rushed all the way from the frontier, claiming he'd even lost 2 horses along the way. Besides gifts for my parents, sisters, and myself, there was a letter. In it, he wrote that he'd prepared the softest flower-decorated palanquin and a squad of guards to escort me to the frontier, along with over a dozen silver notes. It seemed half the Qin family's fortune was now in my hands. My father clicked his tongue, marrying a wife sure costs money. But he wasn't stingy either. He gave me several silver notes to purchase my dowry. The trousseau had been prepared long ago. But life at the frontier is austere. If I found anything I liked, I could take more. In half a month, I would leave the capital. I jotted down the date on paper, along with the items I needed to purchase. The next day, I took my second sister to the jewelry shop. Last night, the young master from the Vice Minister of Right's household had come to propose marriage overnight. She too needed to buy her dowry, though not as urgently as I. This cloth shop was the largest in the capital. The shopkeeper asked what style of fabric I wanted. My second sister smiled, the bride style. The shopkeeper understood immediately and brought out several bolts of red brocade, clearly intended for weddings. It was indeed beautiful. At home, Mother had once prepared a bridal gown for me. But 5 years had passed, and it was now covered in dust. It wasn't in style in the capital anymore either. Just as I was about to ask how much it would cost, Xinjiao's voice sounded behind me. "Cousin, what do you think of this moon shadow gauze?" I turned to see a dazed Pei Yinjun and Xinjiao. They stood close together. The young shop assistant, noticing their splendid attire and the exquisite jade ornaments adorning them, hurried over to introduce. "This moon shadow silk is our shop's prized treasure. When moonlight falls upon it, it shimmers with a radiant glow. Madam, you have truly excellent taste." He addressed Xinjiao as madam, clearly mistaking her for someone else. Pei Yinjun glanced at me but said nothing. I lowered my eyes, a faint smile playing on my lips. "I'll take this piece of brocade. Also, select a few more bolts of fabric for custom garments. I'll send someone with the measurements later." The shopkeeper was naturally delighted and began introducing more items. Xinjiao requested 2 bolts of moon shadow silk. The shop assistant grinned. "That comes to 3,000 taels in total." The price was jaw-droppingly high. Xinjiao tugged at Pei Yinjun's sash. "Cousin, perhaps we should reconsider." Pei Yinjun frowned slightly, replying instinctively, "You manage all household expenses. There's no need to spare such small sums for me." The shop assistant, ever observant, promptly wrapped up the moon shadow gauze. Xinjiao glanced at me. "Miss Su is here too. Why not buy a bolt for her as well?" "Cousin?" The shop assistant gave an awkward smile. "This shop only has 2 bolts of moon shadow silk left. We don't have any more." A flicker of impatience passed through Pei Yinjuan's eyes. "It's fine. Awan is getting older, such bright colors don't suit her anymore." Someone recognized me and chuckled softly. My second sister flushed crimson with anger. I patted her hand. During Pei Yinjuan's 5 years of exile, I scrimped and saved, sending him my monthly allowance each month. I couldn't afford the most fashionable clothes in the capital back then. When Pei Yinjun learned that silver was all I had saved, his eyes reddened slightly. Should I ever attain the highest position in the court, I vowed I would never disappoint Awan. And later, he did indeed reach the pinnacle of power. But when I set my eyes on a jade hairpin, he said, "You truly crave the trappings of luxury." Then he added, "Begging me to buy such things before we're even married, how shameless." I fell silent for a long time that day. He looked at me, then turned and bought the jade hairpin anyway. Only I no longer wanted it. After that, I never went shopping with Pei Yunjun again. As he finished speaking, a flicker of regret crossed Pei Yunjun's eyes. His lips parted, but no words came out. Only when he saw me preparing to leave did he seize my wrist. "Su Wan, are you angry?" I shook my head. "Prince Pei and I have already broken off our engagement. He is free now. Your affairs naturally have nothing to do with me. Why would I be angry?" Prince Pei lowered his gaze. "I thought you said you wanted to break off the engagement in anger." I lifted my eyes, meeting his with a calm stare, silent for a long while. A flicker of panic crossed his eyes. The silence grew unbearably thick. Only when his gaze fell upon the crimson brocade held by the maid behind me did his eyes brighten slightly. Is this for a wedding gown? But wasn't the gown already made long ago? True. A woman can never have too many dresses. But is there also a joyous occasion? I'll pay the silver. You just choose whatever you like. He seemed to recall all the promises he'd made me in the past. His expression flustered. Never had his demeanor been so attentive. As if he were trying to make amends. But when he touched the sachets at his waist, his body stiffened slightly. He had entrusted all household management at the Pei residence to Xinjiao, leaving him with little silver of his own. I nodded. It is for the wedding gown. But I have already paid for it. Your Highness need only pay Xinjiao. I'm not marrying him, why would he need to pay for bridal cloth? The silver notes Qin Shao gave me were substantial. And with what my parents provided, I'm not short of funds. The slight curve of his lips froze there. Prince Pei? Alwan. Are you still angry? I shook my head. No. It's just that Prince Pei and I have already broken off our engagement. There's truly no need for further entanglement. I couldn't tell which of my words had displeased Pei Yunjun, but a thin layer of anger flushed his face. Xinjiao chuckled lightly at the right moment. Miss Su says she's broken off the engagement with my cousin and wishes no further ties? Then why such haste in preparing a dowry? Miss Su must be playing hard to get, hoping to make my cousin anxious so he'll propose sooner. Prince Pei Yunjuan's brow relaxed. His gaze toward me softened slightly. It's fine. Alwan. I don't blame you. I'll return to the manor and have preparations made. Shall we wed in 10 days? 10 days? That happens to be the day I'm to marry and depart for the frontier. I looked at the two before me and gave a dismissive chuckle. It won't be necessary. The betrothal letter has already been returned to you. When the Pei family ordered my exile, you never gave my family a dowry, only that single betrothal letter, which I've long since returned. From this day forward, you and I have no connection. With that, I left the place with Jiqiu. Yet Pei Yunjun seemed utterly convinced I was merely sulking. He dispatched people everywhere to procure wedding paraphernalia. Even the banquet chefs were already hired. He even sent over a marriage contract. My parents were baffled but still sent it back. Others assumed he intended to marry that cousin. After all, many at the restaurant had witnessed my broken engagement with Pei Yunjun. The news had long since spread. I spent my days leisurely at home with my sisters. Thinking of the hardships at the frontier, I had servants prepare thick winter garments and numerous gifts for Qin Zhao's family. The household bustled with activity. I encountered Pei Yunjun again when I went to the cloth shop to collect my custom-made garments. Pei Yunjun was having his wedding attire measured. I avoided looking at him. I only instructed the shop assistant to hand me my order. Pei Yunjun, however, spotted me. Still draped in crimson brocade, he seemed somewhat embarrassed. His gaze shifting away from mine. Only when he saw me take the garments from the clerk did he approach. Before placing my order, I had inquired about his measurements from Qin Zhao's subordinate. I breathed a sigh of relief, at least he wasn't the pot-bellied, chubby fellow my second sister had imagined. The tailored dimensions even hinted at a man of towering stature. Broad shoulders. And a narrow waist. Considering his life on the frontier, I'd chosen deep indigo and dark blue hues for the garments. Pei Yunjun glanced at them, his brow slightly furrowed. Alwan. Aren't these clothes a bit large? And the colors aren't what I usually wear. Pei Yunjun preferred moon-white garments. When I'd ordered clothes for him before, I'd mostly bought that color. But now, I wasn't buying them for him. I suppose I was being presumptuous. He wouldn't believe I'd marry another. And I couldn't be bothered to explain endlessly. After all, I'd be heading to the frontier in 3 days. Noticing my frown, Pei Yunjun chuckled softly. It matters not. as long as you chose them. Chichio, watching his animated expression, rolled her eyes. I looked at him and still said it. Pei-Yun-Jun. I told you, I'm not marrying you. He shook his head, clearly unconvinced. But I clearly saw his fingertips tremble slightly. I couldn't be bothered to explain further and left with my maid. That evening, however, as the family was having supper, my elder brother walked in from outside. He looked at me, hesitating to speak. My father, who never tolerated such hesitation, kicked him. Spit it out already. My brother glanced at me before finally speaking. It turned out that this afternoon, Xinjiao had invited several noble ladies and their wives to admire the plum blossoms on the back mountain of Xinshan Temple. She went off alone to catch her breath. But the maid vanished without a trace. A group of noble ladies followed the maid through the back hills, searching until they heard Xinjiao's voice coming from the guest quarters on Changle Peak in the temple's rear courtyard. Hearing the commotion outside, she was still calling for help. Fearing something terrible had happened, several matrons kicked the door open. There they found Pei-Yun-Jun pinning Xinjiao beneath him. Word spread that someone had reported Pei-Yun-Jun for lewd conduct in the temple. Summoned to the palace by His Majesty, he was barred from court for a month, demoted 1 rank, and ordered to reflect at home. Serves him right. I said nothing. After all, none of this concerned me anymore. Yet unexpectedly, he arrived at my home the very next morning. Mother was preparing dried fruits and snacks for my journey to the frontier. Father and my elder brother had gone to court. The steward, having no other option, summoned me out. When I saw Pei-Yun-Jun, his face was gaunt and haggard, all traces of his former spirited vigor gone. His eyes were bloodshot. He looked at me, words on the tip of his tongue. Alwan. I intend to take Jiao Jiao as my secondary wife. Seated in the armchair, I lifted my eyelids lazily. Oh. He dared not meet my gaze, his eyes darting away. Yesterday afternoon, after drinking some plum blossom wine, I shared that moment with Jiao Jiao. Now that she can't marry anyone else, I naturally must take her as my wife. Alwan. Rest assured, she'll be an equal wife. Her background is pitiful, she's merely seeking a place in our household. If she bears a child, the future heir will be ours. Looking at the face before me, I recalled 5 years ago. Before his exile, he told me I was the only one he needed in this lifetime. We grew up together, me always following Pei-Yun-Jun. When young girls dream of love, he and I pledged our hearts to each other. How could there not have been love? Yet saying those words still felt like mockery. None of this concerns me. After I spoke, I had the steward see him out. Before leaving, Pei-Yun-Jun looked at me deeply. I am the one who has wronged you. In time, I will make it up to you. Alwan. I said nothing, turning back to my room where the matron was packing my belongings. I smiled faintly. Pei-Yun-Jun, there is no in time for us. On my wedding day, strangely, none of the guests my parents had invited came. The banquet hall stood empty. They had all gone to the Pei residence. Though demoted, Pei-Yun-Jun remained a favored courtier close to His Majesty. His rank surpassed my father's. So naturally, everyone had gone there instead. Fortunately, I didn't care. Outside the gate stood a squad of soldiers Qin Shao had dispatched to escort me. Under my parents' reluctant gaze, I climbed into the crimson carriage. I only promised to return often to see them. Before climbing in, I turned and handed a wooden hairpin to my elder brother. I told him to return it to Pei-Yun-Jun. I also instructed him to retrieve the clothes and boots I had once made for Pei-Yun-Jun and burn them. To sever all ties completely. From now on, the brocade waters flow on, and I bid you farewell forever. My brother nodded, rest assured. I will see it done. With that, I climbed into the carriage. Qin Zhao's deputy commander, Lu Yu, nodded and ordered the departure. But I heard him say, the young general said to ride at full gallop when we leave. Don't let anyone intercept us. Pei Yun-jun, clad in crimson, gazed at his reflection in the bronze mirror. He thought of Su Wan. When selecting fabrics that day, he deliberately chose a brocade similar to the one Su Wan had held. He had intended to buy the exact same one. But the shopkeeper explained that only 2 bolts of that brocade existed, and the other had been purchased immediately after Su Wan left. Feeling a pang of loss, he tracked down the buyer. He offered a hefty sum to buy it back. But the man showed no fear, gruffly declaring he wouldn't sell. He had no choice but to settle for the brocade somewhat similar to Awan's. He rarely wore such vivid colors. Today, however, he found the hue rather pleasing. After leaving, he waited at the gate long before the appointed time. According to custom, he should have personally gone to fetch Awan. But last night, Xin Jiao had come to him, tears streaming down her face. We are both equal wives. If my cousin shows such favoritism, how will others view me in the future? Looking at Xin Jiao, he hesitated. Yet, amid her sobs and pleas, he ultimately agreed. He did not go to meet Awan. To ensure fairness in marrying a co-wife, the groom traditionally only needed to wait at home for the bride to enter. Yet he waited an entire hour before the flower-decorated palanquin finally approached from afar. His face beamed with joy. Amidst the cheers, he stepped forward and knocked 3 times on the palanquin door. When the door opened, he instinctively reached out to support her. But behind the feather fan, it was Xin Jiao's face. His expression froze. Under everyone's gaze, he still helped Xin Jiao down from the palanquin. Others clamored for the wedding ceremony to begin. Pei Yun-jun shook his head. He hadn't waited for Awan yet. If he performed the ceremony with Xin Jiao now, Awan would surely be upset. He already felt guilty toward her about the matter with Xin Jiao. He couldn't risk upsetting Awan any further. The others looked puzzled but dared not urge him further. Until the auspicious hour arrived. Someone impatiently snapped. When will the banquet begin? We've been busy all morning. Had I known we'd wait this long, I'd have gone to the Su family feast first. The Su family? Are they celebrating today too? Indeed. You've only just returned to the capital and aren't acquainted with Lord Su. So you didn't know, he's marrying off his daughter today. She's marrying into the frontier. His daughter's already 20 years old. It's about time she got married. Pei Yin-jun froze. He spun around, grabbed the man by the collar, and stared at him intently. What did you just say? Startled by his expression, the man quickly explained. I said Magistrate Su is marrying off his daughter today. She's going to the Qin family in the frontier. Pei Yun-jun couldn't hear anything else. An inexplicable panic gripped his heart. No. It couldn't be. Su Wan was meant to marry him. Her delay must be because she was sulking, upset that he hadn't come to greet her. But then he remembered what Su Wan had said that day at the restaurant. Let's call off the engagement. He couldn't wait any longer. He was about to head to the Su residence to fetch Su Wan. But unexpectedly, he saw someone galloping toward him ahead. It was Su Wan's eldest brother. He breathed a sigh of relief. Just as he was about to ask if Wan was behind him, he saw Su toss a wooden hairpin into his hand. He caught it instinctively. Looking down at the pin, he nearly shed tears. This was the hairpin he had given Wan on their engagement day. He'd stayed up all night before their parting to carve this wooden hairpin for her by hand. Wan never disdained its simplicity. Instead, she'd smiled and let him pin it in her hair. That year, Wan had just come of age, the most beautiful maiden in the capital. Her face was enchantingly lovely. Many in the capital coveted her. She was clearly worthy of the world's most precious jewels. Yet she treasured the simple wooden hairpin he had made. Alwan was the bride he had been betrothed to since childhood. And he knew she loved him. They were meant to marry smoothly after his return to the capital. Alwan would manage the household. Both she and he were handsome. And perhaps they would have 2 children as delicate as carved jade. Children would cling to his legs, calling him daddy. Another would burrow into Alwan's embrace. They would live out their days in loving harmony. But when exactly did his thoughts begin to shift? Perhaps it was after Xinjiao arrived, appearing before him. Or maybe when Xinjiao twisted her ankle and he supported her waist. A momentary softening in his heart. Or perhaps it was when all the men Alwan had rejected claimed she'd waited 5 years for him, that if he didn't marry her, he'd be no better than a beast. Even his grandmother and sister tacitly accepted Alwan as his future wife. He began to grow weary. Alwan felt like a burden. Cast her aside, and he'd be a villain beyond redemption. Later, as his career soared, Alwan had subtly mentioned a few times that his younger sister was of age, asking when he would marry her. He only felt impatience. He loathed this Alwan he couldn't shake off. He even considered having Alwan propose the annulment herself, to break this bond. But he knew no one else would marry her. After all, she was already so old. When she and Xinjiao fell into the water, Alwan ran a fever, crying constantly from the pain. I didn't know what hurt her most. I only knew that moment. He felt a flicker of tenderness and promised he would marry her. The next day, she said she didn't want him anymore. Big brother. Where's Alwan? Susu looked at him and sneered coldly. Don't call me brother. I'm no brother to you. Alwan has naturally gone to marry someone else. I was merely sent to retrieve some things. After speaking, he watched Susu storm into his room, rummaging through the wardrobe's corners to gather a pile of clothes and long boots, tossing them all into the brazier. Those items were all gifts from Su Wan. On top lay a sachets, embroidered by Wan's own hands. Now it too vanished in the flames. Ignoring Xinjiao's shrieks of protest, he plunged his hand into the fire and seized the sachets. When he withdrew it, his palms scorched, holding only a handful of ashes. As the carriage approached the outskirts of the capital, the sound of galloping hooves echoed behind us. I saw Pei Yinjun charging recklessly toward us, blocking the carriage door. His crimson groom's attire was disheveled. Several guards immediately moved to push him away, but hesitated. Mindful of Pei Yinjuan's status as an imperial official, only Lu Yu. He was about to charge forward and clash with Pei Yinjun. I hurriedly spoke up. Deputy General Lu, could you please wait? Lu Su held a lower rank than Pei Yinjun, but civil officials held considerable sway in the court. I feared stirring up trouble. Besides, some things simply needed to be clarified. After I stepped down from the carriage, tears welled in Pei Yinjuan's bloodshot eyes. His lips had turned deathly pale. A flicker of hope flickered in his gaze. Alwan, I've come to escort you home. I shook my head. Pei Yinjun, you're not the one I'm marrying. He forced a smile. Alwan, you're still sulking at me, aren't you? I know I was wrong. Once we return, I'll send Xinjiao away. I can compensate her family with a fortune. Only you. Only you. Okay? I looked at him, saying nothing more. Finally, he covered his face. Tears fell through the gaps between his fingers. He gazed at me. Alwan, don't abandon me. I looked toward the distance. Pei Yinjun, no one will wait for you forever. You should have known long ago, when you were exiled to Lingnan. I waited 5 years. I never coveted your glory. Never clung to you. This is the end. Pei Yinjun. I won't touch a shred of his splendor. Nor will I touch him. With that, I climbed into the carriage. Pei Yinjun still refused to leave, but palace attendants soon arrived and pinned him to the ground. He could only watch helplessly as I departed. Suwon left after all. That crimson carriage vanished into the distance. Bound for the frontier. He was brought back to the palace. Before him stood his own sister, now an imperial consort. Let it go, brother. Sister Won waited 5 years for you. Yet you delayed marrying her and instead entrusted the household duties to our cousin. Do you know how many malicious whispers about Won circulate throughout the capital? Now that you've acted toward our cousin as you have, a woman as virtuous as Won could never marry you. Brother. During those 5 years, it was thanks to Won protecting me and grandmother that I even survived to see you return to the capital. Our Pei family repaid kindness with ingratitude. I have no face left to meet Sister Won. You must stop pursuing her. Let her go. Pei Yunjun didn't know how he made it back to the mansion. He only knew that when he left the palace, a heavy rain had begun. He walked alone. The person who used to stand in the alleyway, waiting to offer him an umbrella when he came home from school, was gone forever. He couldn't tell if the wetness on his face was tears or rain. This water was sour, bitter, salty. It flowed into his heart. After returning to the manor, Pei Yunjun developed a high fever. Yet in his dream, he saw Su Won, clad in crimson, slowly approaching another man. She grew affectionate with him, bearing his children. Turning to him, she sneered coldly, "This lifetime, I want nothing more to do with you." He coughed up blood. He jolted awake. His eyes filled with tears as he roared, "Alwon, come back! I was wrong." The journey from the capital to the frontier took a month. Unexpectedly, halfway there, a group of people appeared. "Lu Yu alerted me, madam. It's the young general." I lifted the curtain to look. In the center of the group stood a man clad in red, the same brocade as my wedding gown. That wedding gown had only been worn on my wedding day. Since then, I'd stored it in a trunk, waiting to don it again upon reaching the frontier. The man stood tall and straight, his jet black hair pulled high, sword-like brows framing starry eyes, radiating youthful vigor. He smiled at me. "Alwon, I've come to fetch you." Only later did I learn he'd rushed through all official duties overnight to lead his men here for me. The frontier lacked the capital's bustle. Soldiers in armor were everywhere. Villagers hawked vegetables by the roadside. Qin Shao and his father, both generals, maintained separate residences. After paying respects to heaven and earth, they departed. A group of young faces appeared before me, Qin Zhao's brothers. They kept calling me sister-in-law. Qin Shao shooed them away. Before leaving, they grumbled resentfully, "We just glanced at our sister-in-law a couple times. Is that really necessary, young general?" Then they shouted at me, "Sister-in-law. Men who get jealous over nothing are no good." Qin Shao slammed the main gate shut with a loud bang. He stared at me. His ears were so red they looked like they might bleed. In my memories, Qin Shao had fattened me up considerably during my childhood. The nanny brought my outgrown clothes to my mother. The whole family made me eat less and exercise more, leaving me famished. When Qin Shao came to see me, he brought half a roast chicken. I was starving. If you hadn't come, Mother would have starved me to death. Later, as I grew rounder, my mother had someone keep an eye on me. That's when she discovered Qin Shao had been bringing me food. She laughed in exasperation, "You're getting fatter and fatter. What if you can't find a husband in the future?" Qin Shao held my hand. "That won't happen. Alwon ate my sugar cake, so she'll be my bride forever." This time, it was my father who got angry. My mother said he was so furious he turned into a grandson. I didn't understand, only seeing Qin Shao dragged out by my father. Later, General Qin returned to the capital. Qin Shao protested, but still had to leave. I met Pei Yunjun and followed him around daily. "Hungry?" I nodded. After the long journey, though we stopped at inns to wash up. Our meals were still meager. Qin Xiao told me to wash up while he went to the small kitchen. When I came out, he was carrying a bowl of beef noodle soup. The frontier wasn't like the capital. Qin Xiao's general's residence was less than half the size of my home. With only a few servants, Qin Xiao handled things himself daily, lacking the haughty arrogance of the capital's noble sons. The noodles smelled delicious, topped with blanched greens. I took a bite, my eyes brightening slightly. I hadn't expected Qin Xiao to have such culinary skills. As I ate, Qin Xiao sat beside me, watching. When I set down my bowl and chopsticks, Qiqiu promptly took them away. She thoughtfully closed the door behind her. That night, we lay in bed without speaking. After a long while, I turned to look at him. Qin Xiao. He responded softly, reaching out to cover my eyes. I blinked. I sensed the slight tremor in his fingertips. Qin Xiao. Haven't you had any woman you've been fond of over the years? He was 2 years older than me and had never married. Lu Yu had told me about Qin Xiao along the way. There had never been a woman by his side. Qin Xiao's Adam's apple bobbed slightly. There has been. Always. The woman I've always admired is you. I froze for a moment. Qin Xiao sighed, lowered his hand, and simply turned his back to me. All these years, I've gone back to see you every year. Awan. Seeing you, heartless as you are, turn and follow someone else broke my heart. My father said you were young and would naturally forget me. I never blamed you. Later, every year on your birthday, I returned to see you, watching you walk behind him, watching him never marry you. So I asked you, will you marry me? If not, I'll wait forever. I never knew I carried such intense affection for someone else. Seeing Qin Xiao, the figure in my memories grew ever more familiar. The jade hairpin that appeared outside my door on my coming-of-age day. The jewelry shop owner who sent me gifts every birthday. And when I went to the Lantern Festival on my 14th birthday. Nearly kidnapped, a masked youth in black saved me and brought me home. Turn around. Qin Xiao instinctively turned his head, and I leaned in to kiss his slightly flushed, thin lips. My days with Qin Xiao were uneventful. Yet his feelings were intense. He obeyed everything I said. Only at night, no matter how much I cried and begged, he refused to let go. By day, he possessed boundless energy. His every glance and expression radiated youthful vigor. 3 months later, I discovered I was pregnant. My second sister, already married, was preparing to accompany her husband to Hangzhou for his new post. Upon hearing the news, she made a special trip to see me. By then, Qin Xiao had already fattened me up a few pounds. I was no longer as slender as I had been in the capital. My cheeks were rosy, and every glance and expression carried a hint of coquettish charm. My second sister sighed in relief and recounted events in the capital after my departure. Xinjiao had hidden the marriage contract my family had returned. So Pei Yunjun never knew I truly wasn't meant to marry him. The original plan was to pretend I was marrying Pei Yunjun at the appointed time. Unexpectedly, Pei Yunjun demanded Xinjiao leave, which she naturally refused. She resorted to drugging Pei Yunjun, then lured a maid into the room. Using every trick in the book, she finally wed into the Pei family. Yet after that night, Pei Yunjun never touched her again. Desperate to conceive, Xinjiao secretly slept with a servant boy. Pei Yunjun discovered the affair. Pei Yunjun didn't show anger, only demanding Xinjiao's divorce and expulsion. A frightened maid then revealed Xinjiao had pushed me into the water all those years ago. Xinjiao was sent back to her hometown, along with that servant boy and the child growing inside her. Before I left, his hair had already turned white. Qin Xiao cleared his throat softly at the doorway. Second sister sheepishly tugged her husband's hand and left. I watched Qin Xiao, his thin lips pressed tightly together. Stepping forward, I took his hand, he didn't pull away. But he was clearly still angry. I coaxed him with a few words. Yet his expression remained unyielding. I decided to get up and prepare to take Xiqiu out shopping. But Qin Xiao suddenly pulled me into his arms with a pitiful look. "Can't you comfort me a little longer, Wan Wan? If I hadn't left the capital back then, I would have betrothed myself to you long ago." He wouldn't have stood a chance. He mistook a fish's eye for a pearl. But I won't. My heart belongs only to you. I want neither fish's eye nor pearl, only Su Wan. I smiled. I only want you too, Qin Xiao. He swept me up in his arms and carried me to the bedroom. "My lady. It's late. Let us retire." I looked out at the bright daylight streaming through the window, feeling both amused and exasperated. As day turned to night, the lotus flowers Qin Xiao had cultivated for me along the frontier swayed in the evening breeze. Their vibrant hues were almost blinding, their slender stems nearly snapped by the wind. A sudden downpour fell. It pelted the fuchsias, pattering loudly. Side story. I saw Su Wan again 3 years later. His sister was pregnant. To protect her, he had to pull himself together. He attended court by day. By night, he drank himself into a stupor, clutching a wooden hairpin. During those 5 years of exile in Lingnan, Su Wan often sent messengers with letters, parcels, and silver. The only things uniquely his were that letter and the clothes she had made by hand. He suddenly recalled how bitterly cold Lingnan winters were. Wearing the quilted coat Su Wan had made, he never felt the chill. Others always remarked he endured the cold better than any burly laborer. Until an old woman pinched the hem of his garment, her eyes crinkling with laughter. "Young Master Pei is the warmest of all. Those who are remembered by someone are always warm." He recalled an old garment still tucked away in the wooden chest in his study and hurried to retrieve it. After it developed several holes, he had casually tossed it aside, later bringing it back to the capital. Through the holes, one could clearly see the tightly packed cotton inside, so tightly that not even a grain of rice could fit. He could no longer hold back, clutching the garment as tears fell. The next day, he set off for the frontier. When the imperial consort heard of this, she did not try to stop him. She merely sighed. "We didn't know how to cherish it back then. Why bother now? Let him go." Upon reaching the frontier, Pei Yunjun stood outside the general's residence, yet dared not enter. Though he was in the capital, he had sent people to keep watch. Naturally, he knew Su Wan was doing well at the frontier. He'd heard the young general, beloved by the frontier people, cherished her deeply. Just as Pei Yunjun raised his hand to knock, a kuju ball rolled before him. A boy, delicate as carved jade, gazed up with exquisite features. His eyes and brows bore an uncanny resemblance to Su Wan. Almost at first glance, he recognized the child's identity. The boy showed no fear, merely blinking at him. "Uncle, did you come looking for someone?" Pei Yunjun recalled how, since Su Wan's departure, he had drowned his sorrows in drink daily, his temples now flecked with white hair. Yet his appearance remained unchanged. "Is your mother at home?" The boy nodded. "I'll take you to her." With that, he scampered off on his short legs. Pei Yunjun followed behind. After a few steps, he saw Su Wan across the way. Compared to 3 years ago, she had grown even more beautiful and youthful, resembling a girl of 17 or 18, though now carrying a hint of allure. Beside her stood a man in black, form-fitting attire, smiling at her. In his arms was a newborn baby girl. Su Wan cooed and laughed with delight. The little boy threw himself into Su Wan's embrace, calling out loudly, "Mommy! Mommy! A gentleman came looking for you. That gentleman is so handsome." He glanced at Qin Xiao again and added, "But not as handsome as Daddy." Su Wan lifted her head to look at him. But he darted into an alleyway. Only after the family of 4 had departed did he emerge. Watching their receding figures. He had imagined this scene countless times before, but never envisioned the man beside Suwon would not be him. He seemed to have aged considerably, laughing loudly as he left the frontier. Others mistook him for a madman and shied away. Those who betray true hearts shall swallow 10,000 silver needles. The end.